Shalom, brothers and sisters. We've touched on the whole initial attack in Iran from Israel's side, and it has been ongoing since then. So I'm going to run through all of the latest breaking news articles, the fallout, what's going on, and what the situation is, and we'll talk through them. Tehran is ablaze. Israel strikes massive oil depot near the Iranian capital. Fires are raging. They also targeted the headquarters of Iran's defense ministry. Defense Minister Israel Katz says Tehran is on fire. Targets in Saturday night's attacks in Tehran included not only the oil facility, but sites associated with Iran's nuclear program, which is what they said they were going after all along. Iran's Tasnim agency reported that Israel targeted the headquarters of Iran's defense ministry in the capital, which the IDF confirmed. The Israeli Air Force completed a series of intelligence-based strikes on targets in Tehran. They targeted the Iranian Defense Ministry, the headquarters of SPND nuclear projects, and other targets. And it is ongoing non-stop. Iran fires several volleys of ballistic missiles towards the Jewish state. United States has been assisting in interceptions. Volleys of ballistic missiles flew towards Israel on Friday and Saturday, with sirens repeatedly sounding across Jerusalem and central northern Israel, sending millions into bomb shelters. This continued into Sunday, and I'm sure is continuing today from last that I saw. The United States worked to protect Israel from the incoming ballistic missiles by assisting the Jewish state in its efforts to intercept. The Burke-class destroyers, equipped with the Aegis system, detects and shoots down incoming missiles and was used to help defend Israel from the different volleys. So that's some of the help they got. Israel claims it tricked the Iranian Air Force leaders into meeting before the deadly strikes. We conducted targeted activities to enhance our understanding of their operations and subsequently utilized the intelligence to influence their actions. We anticipated this would encourage their meeting, and more importantly, we were aware of how to ensure their attendance. The official further remarked that the outcomes of the strikes exceeded Israel's expectations. So they even arranged for leadership to get together so they can be in one place and struck by Israel. As Israel strikes Iran hard, former Iranian Crown Prince Pahlavi calls for regime change in Tehran. Now, he does this regularly, and he's very pro-Israel and friends with Israel, and he's once again in the midst of this whole attack called for a regime change. Ali Khamenei, the reckless leader of the anti-Iranian Islamic Republic regime, has once again involved our country in a war. Pahlavi wrote in Persian on social media, "This is not Iran's war, nor the war of the Iranian people. It is Khamenei's war and the Islamic Republic's war." So he's always there, and he's always mentioning this, and he's reminding his people that he could step in if someone had to take out Khamenei and his echelon of leadership. Breathtaking revelation, although this shouldn't be breathtaking or shocking after the pager incident and many other examples of Israeli Mossad exercises that take years to put in place. Israel's Mossad operated a covert drone base within Iran, striking targets from inside their own country. Mossad smuggled several weapon systems into Iran. The source revealed they conducted 3 major operations to assist the broader strikes against the Iranian regime, all of which were prepared over the past years by infiltrating and hiding weapon systems within Iranian territory. How embarrassing is that for the leadership of Iran? When the Israeli Air Force began striking Iranian leaders, nuclear sites and military installations, Mossad's covert infrastructure sprang into action. The focus of the years-long intelligence preparations was to prepare detailed files that would allow the quick elimination of large parts of the Iranian ballistic missile and air defense systems. In the most shocking operation, Mossad established the drone base in Iranian territory and used those drones to attack Iran from within her own territory. Crazy. Years in the planning and preparation for this moment. Israel closes all embassies worldwide. Very good move amidst the Iran missile retaliation. Embassies and diplomatic missions across the world closed their doors in an unprecedented security measure following the country's massive military operation against Iran. Israeli missions around the world will be closed and consular services will not be provided, Israel's foreign ministry said in a statement on Friday, along with a warning for Israelis living abroad to maintain caution when attending large-scale events associated with either Israel or Judaism. So they're correctly surmising that there's going to be backlash against Israel worldwide, which we are seeing rising up once again. Team Trump splits over Israel. Within Trump's Make America Great Again movement, a battle is raging of its own between Republicans who argue that US support for Israel must remain ironclad and those who cannot see the case that compels America to get involved in the conflict. Notably absent from the president's messaging over the weekend, any message of solidarity with Israel or promise of undiminished support for Netanyahu throughout this conflict. Its absence may be due to the fact that the president is now conflicted himself, caught between two competing camps in his own supporters. Tucker Carlson, the former Fox News personality and prominent Trump ally, is leading the charge of America First, figuratively urging the president to bail on Netanyahu. So Tucker wants the president to drop Netanyahu and Israel. He says if Israel wants to wage the war, it has every right to do so, but not with America's backing. To his webcast subscribers, he said that he argued that an Israeli-led war with Iran will fuel terrorism, as if there isn't enough terrorism already that Israel is trying to bring an end to. And he urged Trump to drop Israel, let them fight their own wars. Yeah, let's see how that works out for America. Far-right influencer Candace Owens published a video on her social media accounts titled "No More Pointless Wars." She urged Trump to abandon Netanyahu, saying it would be stupid to continue backing the Israeli leader. Mike Huckabee, the president's envoy to Israel, urged Americans to understand that US lives are at stake in the conflict. If you hear Israel is no concern to the USA, you have to remember 700,000 Americans live in Israel. Noting there are more Americans here than in any other country except Mexico. Iran isn't just attacking Israel, but your fellow Americans. On Saturday, Trump waded into the debate, insisting that when it comes to America First ideology, his will be the sole deciding voice. Now, what could happen from this and what we could see developing because of the split and the pull from both sides within his support base, getting frustrated with the situation and where they should be standing with regards America and Israel and support and friend and ally and world politics and positions, is that Trump might get to a point where he feels vulnerable and unstable in his support base and thereby swings toward stepping back and letting Israel do her own thing. So not outright condemning her, but not supporting to protect America first. And at the same time lean towards weighing in on the two-state solution that's been pushed really hard in 2025. And we know this is coming. America's not going to be the holdout against the whole thing because the Bible clearly says God gathers all nations to judgment regarding this entire issue and dividing his land, which means America will be part of the push for dividing the land. This could be this thing that pushes Trump closer to siding with that whole argument, even though the Trump administration is very anti the entire discussion right now pre the attack on Iran. How high will the price of oil go when Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz? It has been reported that Iran is seriously considering closing the strait. We don't know how high the price of oil will go if that happens, but it's never happened before. It will be safe to assume that the price of oil would rapidly surpass the $100 mark. And if it stays there for an extended period, it would push us into a recession all by itself. So worldwide recession just from this conflict. That means the world's on a tipping point, which you should know by now. If the price of oil were to surpass the $200 mark and stay there, it would be enough to push us into an economic depression. The Strait of Hormuz, which lies between Oman and Iran, is the world's most important gateway for oil shipping. The Iranians understand that they can hold the world economy hostage because 20% of all worldwide oil consumption travels through the strait. If the Iranians do this, experts are anticipating the price of oil will go over $100 a barrel, but Iraqi Foreign Minister Fuad Hussein believes the price of oil could rise as high as $300 a barrel. $300. Now here in South Africa, we've already received warnings on the news that it's a done deal that the price of our fuel for our vehicles is going to go up drastically as of next month because of the Israel-Iran conflict currently waging. Whether they close Hormuz or not, ours is already affected and going up steeply, probably because the government sees an opportunity to take some more from the citizens, but also in preparation for the chaos that lies ahead if this carries in the direction that it looks like it might go. RAF jets on standby to defend Israel as the Iran conflict escalates. RAF, Royal Air Force, United Kingdom. British fighter jets could be deployed to defend Israel from Iranian missiles despite fears of the UK being dragged into a regional Middle East war. Why fear that when you're openly talking about putting boots on the ground in Ukraine and getting dragged into a war with Russia, which is quite a bit bigger of a problem than getting dragged into a Middle Eastern war? RAF Typhoons and Voyager refueling aircraft were sent to the region on a precautionary basis to protect UK bases. This amidst the threat from Tehran that they could be targeted as part of the conflict with Israel. On Sunday, Downing Street and Chancellor Rachel Reeves did not rule out RAF planes used to defend Israel from further attacks from Iran. However, Sir Keir Starmer and Foreign Secretary David Lammy are to urge their Israeli and Iranian counterparts and other world leaders to de-escalate the conflict, with Number 10 insisting that the only route to peace is through diplomacy. Only because they don't understand how the Middle East works and the mentality in the Middle East works, and that you can't negotiate or have a rational conversation with a madman like Ali Khamenei and people like that in these terrorist organizations. You can't trust a word that comes out of their mouths. You can't expect to have a rational, mature conversation with them and come to deals. That's not how it works. Trump apparently vetoed an Israeli proposal to assassinate Iran's supreme leader. Bad move, in my opinion. Donald Trump vetoed the proposal to assassinate Iran's leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, according to 2 US officials. The decision, reported on Sunday, underscores Trump's cautious approach to the ongoing Israel-Iran conflict and his prioritization of diplomacy over military escalation. The plan, described as credible by US sources, was presented as a potential decapitation strike to weaken Iran's leadership. However, Trump rejected it, signaling a reluctance to endorse actions that will further destabilize the region and his plan for talks with Iran regarding their nuclear program, which is pretty much on fire right now, so moot point at this point. Erdogan. The amazing Erdogan always has something to say about Israel and hates them from the pit of his dark little soul. Erdogan condemns Israel's strike on Iran and warns that it threatens to destabilize the entire Middle East. The Turkish leader expressed solidarity with Iran, a neighboring country, and described the Israeli actions as a violation of international law and diplomacy. Israel's attacks on our neighbor Iran are a clear provocation that disregards international law, Erdogan said. He further warned that such actions risk plunging the region into deeper chaos. Now, he's claiming to be friends with Iran, and it's his neighbor and his buddy to the side. They actually share a border. So my question for Erdogan is, hey, Big Mouse, why didn't you mobilize your fighter planes? Last check in 2024, end of 2024, Turkey listed 570 fighter planes in their air force, mainly F-4s and F-16s, various variants. But why not scramble the F-16s? Here's an excuse to fight the Israeli Air Force. Meet them in the skies of Iran and show your fealty and friendship and come against Israel. Why did he not do it? Because he's afraid. He knows what will happen if he gets involved, if he tries anything without the right backing. That's why Turkey waits on Russia and Iran waits on Russia, and the Gog-Magog alliance need to come together against Israel to feel strong and brave enough to tempt the IDF and the Israeli Air Force and Mossad into a fight, which if they attempted single-handedly, they'd end up like Iran. So if you look at the situation there, see how tiny Israel is over here, and you've got Turkey right up here, which I've labeled number 1. Over here, you've got Iraq, also not pro-Israel, and here you've got Afghanistan, violently anti-Israel. None of them sent Air Force fighter pilots. None of them fired any anti-aircraft weapons. None of them came to Iran's aid, while tiny little Israel, David, was facing Goliath. Interesting, don't you think? Russia and China, obviously, like duh, condemn Israeli violations of Iran's sovereignty at an emergency UNSC meeting. China opposes the intensification of contradictions and the expansion of conflicts and is deeply concerned about the consequences that may be brought about by Israel's actions. China's UN ambassador Fu Kong said, adding that China was concerned about the negative impact of the current developments on diplomatic negotiations on the Iranian nuclear issue. Russian UN ambassador Vasily Nebenzia alleged that Israel, through its actions, was pushing the region into a large-scale nuclear catastrophe. Wonder what he thinks is happening in Ukraine and Europe. This completely unprovoked attack, Russia says, no matter what Israel says to the contrary, is a gross violation of the UN Charter and international law, expressing Russia's strong condemnation of the strikes. What does he think is happening in Ukraine? That everyone shouldn't talk about that. Israeli United Nations Ambassador Danny Danon said the situation was a direct result of the UNSC's failure to address Iran's nuclear ambitions. Israel did not act recklessly. We waited, Danon said. This was an act of national preservation. It was one we undertook alone, not because we wanted to, but because we were left with no other option. And by doing so, they've helped all the nations in that area and in the world be a bit more protected against an Iran with a madman on top owning nuclear weapons. Israel is interested in a Syria security deal, possibly even peace agreement, Prime Minister Netanyahu, potentially capping a remarkable turnaround in Syria-Israel relations. Netanyahu told the US Syria envoy Tom Barak he is ready to enter negotiations with the Syrian government under US mediation according to Axios on Wednesday. Again, I don't see how that's going to be a good thing at all. Many Bible teachers are of the opinion that they will come together, Gog Magog, in Syria. It's the perfect staging ground. Many of those that are part of the Gog Magog alliance already have troops, planes, equipment on the ground in Syria. They are backers of Syria, and that'll be the perfect jump-off point to attack Israel at a soon-to-be-seen point in the nearby future. So trying to make a deal with a guy who was a terrorist just the other day and now is wearing a suit and making as if he's the president of Syria and that just committed that slaughter just the other day, I don't see how that's a good thing, but apparently they're open to conversation on that. Bad move in my opinion. Over 100,000 people attend the Red Line protests for Gaza in Brussels and The Hague. It was the second time the so-called Red Line protest took place in the Dutch capital, exceeding the turnout from May. The human rights groups and aid agencies, including Amnesty International, Save the Children, and Doctors Without Borders, organized the march, estimated crowd of more than 150,000 people. I don't want to be complicit in the horrendous crimes happening in Israel, and I want to speak out, said protester Marin Quinner, going on Hamas as their source of information. In neighboring Belgium, 75,000 people, many of them clad in red, hit the streets in the capital Brussels. Organizers estimated the crowd at 110,000. Several rallies have been held to draw attention to Israel's actions in Gaza, but Sunday's was the biggest rally so far. The outcry and the anger against Israel is getting bigger and bigger, more worldwide, and more people coming together, forcing Israel into a corner on the worldwide stage where they can be forced into making concessions and agreeing to things normally that they would not agree to, like a two-state solution reward for a terror attack on Israel. Denmark approves US military bases amidst the Greenland concerns. Denmark approved the bill proposal that allows American military bases on Danish soil at a time when the President of the USA has shown great interest in taking control of the kingdom's territory, Greenland. Denmark's foreign minister, Lars Løkke Rasmussen, stated that the agreement can be terminated if the US attempts to annex all or parts of Greenland. So still remains a sore topic and a point of contention, but they are trying to make concessions to each other to try and get to a point where leaders can talk and negotiate and come together against bigger threats. But I personally think that ship has sailed, and sailed for a reason. 2024 has seen the highest worldwide conflict levels since 1946. The number of conflicts in the world was in 2024 the highest in 80 years, a generation. During the year, 61 conflicts were registered in 36 countries, according to a report from the Norwegian Peace Research Institute, PRIO. Africa is the continent hit the hardest. There are 28 conflicts ongoing, while in Asia there are 17, the Middle East 10, Europe 3, and North and South America 2. The report shows this dealing with armed conflicts between the years 1946 and 2024. And obviously 2025 ratchets it up even faster. It's not just a peak, it's a structural shift, says lead author Sirius Rustad. The world is today much more violent and much more fragmented than it was 10 years ago. Violence, lawlessness abounds. The love of many grow cold. There are wars, rumors of wars, kingdoms against kingdoms, nations against nations, distress, calamities all over the world. When you see these things, do not be afraid. Look up, for our redemption draws nigh. The Son is coming for his bride really soon. And we see Israel surrounded by her enemies, the world pulling back and condemning Israel, and Israel standing alone fighting. And we know that there's a very important principle here that I speak about often on this channel in the Bible called but God. No matter the situation, no matter the storm, no matter how overwhelming the odds, but God. There's always a but God moment. God is on the throne. God is in control. God wrote the story long before any of it started playing out. We are but seeing it come to pass in front of our eyes. And what a glorious blessing that is to have been born for a time such as this. Keep praying for Israel. Pray for the civilians. They've been hit hard. Tel Aviv was burning. Various other places in Israel are burning. People are dead and suffering. Pray for the Iranian civilians. Same story. A lot of them are suffering. A lot of the Iranians are sending messages of support to Israel and saying, we love Israel. We stand with you. We're praying for you, regardless of what our evil government's doing. We can't label the whole of Iran as one evil place. No, there's a massive growing underground church in Iran. There are lots of people there, most that are against this dictatorship that they're living under. Hence, the removing of the head of that organization would have been a good thing for them. Maybe an opportunity, but we know that there's a lot more prophecy that needs to play out in the days ahead that involves Persia/Iran. So again, pray for all these people. Pray for them to meet the Lord Jesus Christ, to have that moment when they can get down on their knees and give their lives to Him. Shalom.